This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show. This is attorney Marc Kapetan, your host. Today's show is brought to you by the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. We've been serving the Central Valley since 1995. If you or anybody you know has been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, give us a call at 559-498-8000, or if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, call us at the Kapetan Brothers. Monday through Fridays, 9 to 5. You can call us on Saturdays and Sundays, 559-498-8000. Kapetan Brothers, we're the Valley's law firm. We would like to thank today's sponsor for today's show, the Arc Mediterranean Grill. Oh, yeah. We love the Arc Mediterranean Grill. They have delicious Mediterranean food. We like to say it's Armenian food. If you're Greek, you like to say Greek food, but great Mediterranean food. 2 locations, one in Fresno, one in Clovis. Go see the Akizian brothers and pick up some dolma or some shish kebab or some great Serbian food, right, for our next guest coming up here. Take the office lunch or maybe some dinner, get some takeout for dinner at home. Arc Mediterranean Grill in Fresno and Clovis. Thanks for being sponsors of the show. Speaking of dinner, and I didn't plan this, but dinner table conversation for most of society. It's going to be a pretty tough, interview today because we were talking some pretty heavy duty conversation. But most conversation at a dinner table discusses the day's topics, or basically, honey, how was your day at work, right? But what if your job is that of a homicide detective or an emergency room detective or an attorney in the criminal justice system like me? For my family's dinner last night, we were discussing a shooting and issues of self-defense and discussing evidence and videotapes, etc. at dinner, Marcella. It's normal in my world. In that regard, I'm envious of those of you out there that don't have to daily encounter the tragedies of life, the struggles of an individual, or the evils of man. And I don't mean this in a condescending way, but ignorance is bliss, and I wish I was ignorant to it all. It catches up to you on a daily basis. My next guest not only discusses issues of violence, assaults, and murders during her nightly dinners, I'm sure, at some point in her life, but I can imagine that many of those dinners were actually takeout food on the way to crime scene investigations and homicides. You know, maybe a burger from McDonald's over to check out the latest of Los Angeles murders. She was a former Los Angeles police officer with over 30 years of law enforcement experience, a supervising detective with LAPD. She spent her career investigating sexual assaults, child abuse, domestic violence, robbery, and homicides. In fact, her work on the homicide team of the LAPD led to a TV series and other media appearances. And although she doesn't particularly like the moniker, right?
No.
Yeah. She was dubbed the Killer Closer for her ability to gain confessions in the most notorious of LA murders. She's currently a chief investigator for the Tulare County District Attorney's Office, and Tim Ward, the DA over there in Tulare, will readily admit that he is lucky to have her. So, former LAPD, now chief investigator, first chief investigator, I think, over at Tulare County District Attorney's Office, Lindy Gligorijevic. I practiced it over and over and over, and I got really cocky at the end there. Gligorijevic.
Yes, sir.
And I've been saying that in my head for a week, but I realized I hadn't been saying it out loud. So
I understand.
Okay. Good Serbian name?
Yes, my husband's Serbian.
Yeah. And you had to, how long did it take you to learn how to say your own name?
Well, I was motivated, but he was a retired Los Angeles city fire captain.
Yeah.
And the first time I went in his office, we were just dating, and I saw he had an award or something on the wall.
Yeah.
And his first name is Ljubomir. Ljubomir. Middle name Slobodan. Last name Gligorijevic.
Can you say all three of those quick?
Yes.
Ljubomir
Slobodan Gligorijevic.
Oh my gosh.
So I thought, oh my gosh, well, it's a good thing I'm only dating this guy. I'm never going to be able to spell this or say it. And here we are.
I tell you, as I'm watching the TV series that you did, that all these people are saying, well, Detective Gligorijevic, and they would always screw it up and say it a different way.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I finally had to just listen to you say it over and over and over. And then you could see down here, I actually had to write it out phonetically.
I do that. I do that with my staff. And I tell everybody answer to Lindy. So
that's great. Detective Lindy, we're going to call you. All right. How many years with LAPD?
I started in 1985.
Were you the first female homicide detective?
No. I absolutely was not the first. Okay. There wasn't many, but I was absolutely not the first. I wasn't even the first in my own unit in Foothill Division, which is the northeast end of the San Fernando Valley.
Yeah.
There were 2 other women before me, so no, I was not the first.
But I understand you guys didn't even have a locker room for changing when you got there?
In general, as a patrol officer, no.
Yeah.
That was pretty new.
I mean, the men had it, just didn't have it for the females.
What they did for women, because in '85 there were women were being hired. They were, but the locker room was usually a bathroom that was turned into a locker room.
Oh, I see.
That has changed. That has evolved.
Oh God! What is it? Whatever doesn't hurt you makes you stronger, or whatever. So.
Yeah, and it's that was not really a big deal. No,
and I don't bring it up to that it was an issue. In fact, I didn't even plan on starting with that, but it was just interesting that one of the quotes that you had, and we'll talk about one of your books and the character in the book, but it was just interesting that, there was always that sense that you became this great homicide detective, and I always wondered, well, gee, did that come from the fact that you just had to try harder in some sense?
I don't know. I would say that I never thought there was an option, and that was ingrained from the first day of the academy. There's not an option of failure, and I don't think that's unique to me. I don't think that's unique at all. There's just no option to fail.
Yeah, and so you never dwelled on the male-female thing.
No, I didn't. But
they did.
But you have to remember, too, in 1985, my training officers were largely Vietnam veterans.
Yeah.
And they hadn't worked with women.
Yeah.
And so that was unique. The young men now, they have moms who were, they have moms that worked. They have wives that work.
Right.
And so it's not as unusual to have a female boss or a female partner. But in the 80s, that was still unusual, and so you have to give people grace for not having that as part of their experience and being a rare commodity. The thing that was irritating is that I would hear them say, "You're the best female partner I've had." And I looked forward to somebody just saying I'm the best partner they had.
And I love the fact that you said, and a perfect way of saying you have to give them grace. I mean, I'm 60, and there's certain things that I look at my secretaries and say, and they look at me like,
It's not an episode of Mad Men?
Yeah, right, exactly. And I just have to say, hey, well, no, it's not that bad, and not the Mad Men bad, but I say, hey, listen, I'm a 60-year-old guy. I mean, give me a break, So I love the fact that, you look at it that way.
Oh, well, these were the best men in the world also.
Yeah.
These were the bravest, strongest, smartest men that trained me. So you make your own path.
Yeah.
And you can take things very personally, or you can just move on and do the job.
Right. Okay. Speaking about the job. All right, we're going to set it up because we got a segment coming up here, and we got about a minute left.
Okay.
You have a case of is it Kerr was the woman that was burned in the car?
Oh yes, Lisa Kerr.
Lisa Kerr, and it's part of your TV show, The Killer Closer, that was aired about 2018, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
On Discovery.
So go check it out. It's I think still on Newsmax or Cinemax or one of those channels. You can find out The Killer Closer. Set up the case real quick in about 30 seconds or so. It's a murder of a woman by an arson, right?
Yes. She's discovered in her own vehicle on the side of the 170 freeway off an off ramp, and she's burnt beyond recognition. And that is where we start. We start with tracing her back to even her identity by her license plate
right.
on her car.
And it's so horrific. And again, coming, maybe taking a takeout to go have dinner, and you get or you're going home and you get called out to these murder scenes. It's so horrific that the only thing that's visible of her is basically a side of her face that was laying against a purse.
Correct.
And as you guys take her out of the vehicle, her body just disintegrates in the hands of the EMTs, basically.
Correct. No, that was not the EMTs.
Well,
it was me.
It was you.
She was deceased, so I was assisting removing her because it's also a crime scene.
Oh my God. Okay, we're going to be right back with Lindy Gligorijevic from LAPD and Tulare County District Attorney's Office. We'll be right back on the Marc Kapetan Show. I could say that on KMJ. This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. Folks, if you miss this show, or if a friend has missed this show or any of the shows on KMJ, you could go to KMJNow.com and check out the podcast of all the shows, or you could go to the KMJ app. If you don't have the app, you could download it. I have it. That's how I listen to some of these shows on KMJ. Thanks to our sponsor of the Marc Kapetan Show, the Arc Mediterranean Grill. Delicious Mediterranean food. I love the chicken plate that they have there. The baba ganoush, Randy James was talking about the baba ganoush. It's great baba ganoush, very smoky. So Arc Mediterranean Grill, sponsors of the Marc Kapetan Show. 2 locations, one in Fresno on Champlain and Shepherd, and one in Clovis on Herndon and Armstrong. Get a little takeout for the family, maybe some lunch for the office. Arc Mediterranean Grill. Thanks, you guys. We are back on with Lindy Gligorijevic. Got it? Excellent. Okay, thank you. God. Lindy is a former LAPD detective, homicide detective, now a chief investigator. You're the first female chief investigator?
I was the first female chief investigator for a district attorney's office in California.
Oh, wow.
However, so many women now. So it's I'm again no longer a unicorn or unique.
I didn't know it was the first in California. I thought it was just hilarious.
In fact, Fresno DA's office has a female chief.
Oh yeah,
Lisa Biggs.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh, see, believe me, it's I think it's better. I think I don't know. I don't know if it's a trustworthiness or a dedication to work. I don't know. Maybe I'm going down a bad path there, but I appreciate it in all aspects. And we're going to stop talking about the difference between males and females like all these young kids do. There's no difference. A good hard day's work is a good hard day's work. All right. We were talking about the Lisa Kerr case, right, Lisa?
Yes.
Yeah. So she's a young lady that her husband basically set her afire inside a car and killed her back in LA during the day. The reason why I bring it up is you get a confession out of the husband?
I did. He's a boyfriend, not a
boyfriend. And there were about 3 suspects in the case from what I remember. Boyfriend, another potential AA boyfriend that she had. She had her struggles in life, right?
Correct.
And then just another person that happened to be a friend, basically, or an ex-husband, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All I know was there's 3 guys, maybe a husband, a boyfriend, and then another friend from the AA meetings or whatever. It's one of the first episodes in your TV show, The Killer Closer, and I think this is the one where at the end of it you say, "I think of her often. I'm happy I didn't let her down because you gained a conviction on it." And there's actually tears in your eyes. And I could see it sort of right now that you're getting a little misty about it. And you sit there and you go, how does we try our hardest to be these hardened detectives, hardened attorneys and stuff like that. But at some point, after 30 years of doing this, you can't get that hardened.
Well, I think you're hard when you need to be hard. But when it comes to homicide victims, you're present at the crime scene where they were killed. You're present at the autopsy when their body's being autopsied.
Right.
You're present when you're telling the loved ones that the person's deceased. It's impossible not to have a connection to the victim, whether the victim is an 18-year-old young kid that's a gang member, or whether it's a mom. In her case, she was a mom.
You could even say, like you said in the first segment, you physically put your hands on this woman to help her out of basically what was her death trap, this burning vehicle. What was it, though, specifically about this case, or do you feel that way about all the cases that you did?
The fact that she had a little boy, that resonated with me because I'm a mom. But no, I mean it when I say it, that there's a covenant where you don't want to let the family down. You don't want to let the victim down. You don't want to let them down. And it's a long, long road, as you know. It's a long road through court. It's a terribly long road for victims and their families.
Right.
And so, regardless of the circumstances, there's a thing that happens, as you know, there's a thing that happens where the attention shifts to the defendant, the suspect. And that's natural because he or she is the one that's left alive and has a story to tell and has excuses.
Right.
The victim can be marginalized. I like to think, like the Robert...
Blake?
Yeah, Blake.
Yeah, the LA case, famous actor.
And the amount of character assassination that happened with her.
Right.
It gets you to the point where, well, it's no big deal if she died because she was such a horrible woman. And that's the thing that the people who are intimately involved with these victims, either as detectives or family members, you're still carrying that torch of justice,
right,
regardless of what happens to their character.
Partially the fault of the defense attorneys, but also the media. They love to sensationalize and maybe even victimize these victims.
Yes, yeah. But it's also that person doesn't have anybody left to speak for them.
Right.
And so doing the television show, what surprised me about it was the fact that victims' families wanted to participate. And there's one, this mom. I didn't want to watch the show.
Yeah.
I don't even want to listen to my voice on tape. But my husband made me, and I'm glad I did, because on one of the homicides, the mom said when she's being interviewed, because I don't see them when they're being interviewed. So I'm watching it just like anybody else would, and the mom said that I promised her that I would solve her son's murder. And I thought, what an idiot I was. Like, that's
right.
A lot of hubris. But I was an idiot, so I can see that I would say that. And she said that I did solve it. And then she said, I've said a prayer for her every day every night for 17 years.
Wow.
And that was the most humbling thing. I can't even imagine somebody praying for me.
Much less for 17 years nightly. And you still have memories of these interactions, but on a superficial, maybe a little bit deep, but not that dedication that they owed, that they're paying you, basically.
It was worth everything to hear that because like I said, it was the most humbling thing I've ever heard.
It's an interesting concept that I never thought of when you said I speak for them. It's not that you're speaking for them keeping their memory alive or something like that. In the most significant instance is you're speaking for them by saying, by the way, I am ready to die. Here's the person who did it. This is how he did it. This is why he did it. And so you're not only giving to the voice to this living person that was out there in the world and had a mother, etc., but you're also giving the voice by solving these crimes, by saying, putting yourself in the place of the victim and saying, I know how this occurred. and I'm going to tell everybody how it occurred.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah, the one thing though for you was the fact that she had a daughter. You were a single mother yourself. You had all the same struggles that she had, even though she may have led a different life in many respects also.
Well, you're talking about a little boy that's going to grow up without his mother, right. And that the very least I can do is solve her homicide.
Right. We'll be right back with Lindy Gligorijevic from the LAPD and from the Tulare County District Attorney's Office right after this. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. I'm going to pop this music down. Folks, you know the drill. If you have been injured in an auto accident, I want you to call the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm at 559-498-8000. It's a serious trying time that you may be having. And I want you to do us a favor because we're always looking for business. We're not any different than anybody else when it comes to business. If you have a friend who's been in an auto accident or if you've been in an auto accident, do yourself a favor, call the office. We have some great, my brother Peter's a great attorney, and I don't do a half bad job myself. So call us at the Kapetan Brothers, 559-498-8000. I want to get right back into it with Lindy Gligorijevic. She is a LAPD, former LAPD detective, homicide detective, now a chief investigator at the district attorney's office for many years under Tim Ward over there. Lindy, you also had several TV shows, The Killer Closer, which was a moniker you were dubbed for your ability to get confessions out of suspects. You were on the Oxygen Network. You were on America's Most Wanted. It goes on and on and on. Another significant case that you had back in the day was basically the conspiracy between two sisters to kill one of the sisters' husbands. Yeah,
that was a weird one. And also, at that time, that was I was very new to homicide at that time. The call comes out of shots fired. A woman, 911 reports that an intruder entered her garage and her husband shot him. The intruder.
Shot the intruder, right.
Mm-hmm. And we don't know if the intruder's a male or female. We don't know much of anything. So when we get there, the husband is a city attorney for Los Angeles. And he works out of the same courthouse I did, filed our cases.
Oh, so, wow, I didn't know that.
Jose Garza. And his wife is very upset.
But is she also an attorney?
She was an attorney also.
Yeah.
But private practice.
Right. But listen, well, I don't know how upstanding you think attorneys are, but basically, good job.
Well, since my boss is one, they're the best.
Too funny. But basically, normal couple, little weird things that they have going on between the two of them, but basically normal couple. And it turns out that the intruder that has come in is who?
Well, we didn't know because we couldn't tell if this intruder was male or female even after the person got transported to the hospital. We found out a little bit later that the intruder was a woman, and then it wasn't until we were interviewing the husband and wife at Foothill Station that I got a knock on the door while we were interviewing the wife that it was her sister.
It's her sister.
Which was really peculiar. You can't even wrap your mind around. Yeah. She was dressed like a ninja. She was armed with a 2-inch 5-shot revolver.
Actually shot at the husband.
She shot at him and missed, which you would do with a 2-inch revolver.
He happened to be getting ice cream for his wife after, it was a normal thing for her to have an ice cream bar after sex.
Snackwells.
Snackwells?
I remember
an endorsement for Snackwells. And basically he says, well, I'm going out in the garage, and it was sort of maybe a habit or something like that, or a cautionary thing, that he would actually take his pistol from his and put it in his robe to go out in the garage.
His dogs were barking, and Jose was very, very cautious. He had weapons secreted all over his house. He is prosecuting crimes in the city that he lives.
Right.
So he had reasons to be concerned.
Okay. You basically find out, because I have a question about this, you basically find out that the sister had conspired with the intruder sister, the ninja sister, that they were going to kill the husband because she wanted out of the relationship. And unfortunately didn't foresee the fact that her husband was going to take a gun into the garage innocently. And when the intruder came in, the sister came in to shoot him in the garage. He ducked whatever. Somehow she missed, and the husband shot her and killed her dead.
Yes. However, she sent Jose into the garage. She set it up. She said
the sister that lived, the one who conspired, who wanted out of the relationship, said, I'm going to have sex with him that night, and I'm going to ask him to go get an ice cream out in the freezer
Correct.
in the garage.
Correct. And so it still made no sense a couple hours into our interview, other than it was clear that Jose had no idea what was going on. But we're on tape. We record everything, and the wife had to go to the restroom, so I got to take her. But I'm a boot junior detective, so I don't get to do anything interesting. I just sit there and listen to my very experienced partner do everything. But I thought, I get to take her into the bathroom. I can do that. And when I bring her in there, we don't run tape in the bathroom. She goes in a stall and she says, "Detective, can I ask you something?" I said, "Sure." I'm thinking, oh, here it comes.
Here's the confession.
She says, "Have you ever tried Snackwell's ice cream products? They're good if you want to lose weight."
Yeah.
I thought, oh, you witch. So you understand what this was.
Basically, she was manipulating you.
She was.
Or trying to.
She was trying to get one over. So I put her back in the interrogation room. And
because she was basically not giving anything away. She was going to talk about something completely innocuous to con you.
She's calling me fat.
Right. Well, I understand that. Right.
Mark, come on.
Yeah.
So we put her back in the interrogation room, and I go to my unit, and I said, "She did it." And they're all laughing at me. "What do you mean she did it?" I said, "Run that gun, the 2-inch, run it. It's going to come back to her." And it did.
Oh.
And so then we, the case gets made after that, and I got to do the I'm right dance.
Yeah.
Which
you actually did a dance in front of
I actually did an I'm right dance. But it was a tragic story for the family of these two sisters, and of course for Jose. She had 3 children.
Yeah.
And so it was, although there are some amusing things that happened, and it was a very sad story.
It was the day before her daughter's birthday.
Yes.
That she decides to kill her husband.
Yeah.
Okay. The question that I have is, and I asked a pastor this one time, you were doing 40 homicides a year on average in LAPD. You've done these horrific things. Are there people who make mistakes, or are there truly evil people in this world?
100% there are people who make mistakes.
Okay.
When you sit across from evil, you know you're sitting across from evil.
Because she called you fat, or no? I'm joking.
Not her.
Listen.
No, I actually wouldn't put her in that category. No. I've only come across true evil just a couple times.
Okay, and she's not one of them?
No.
So what do you give her as an out?
Oh, there's no out. There's no excuse.
No. It's psychologically, what's the difference between her and maybe an evil like a Charles Manson or something like that?
I think we would get into then what is the difference between sociopaths so evil is a moral thing, right? And it's different than a sociopath or a psychopath or a person with addictions or a person with gang affiliations. There's a lot of other things.
Is there a case that you handled, and just you could tell me in 10 seconds, 15 seconds, a case that you handled that is truly evil person?
Yeah, and it's not even an interesting story. And it didn't make it to the Discovery ID because they didn't feel it was an interesting story.
Let's talk about it right after this. We are on with Lindy Gligorijevic right after this from the LAPD's office in the Tulare County District Attorney's Office. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. We are back on with Lindy Gligorijevic. She's a former LAPD homicide detective, and she's now over there with Tim Ward in the Tulare County District Attorney's Office as the chief investigator, the first chief investigator, female chief investigator of California. But we are old school, right, Lindy? We don't care about men or women, so we are do a good day's work, and we could care less. All right, listen. We were talking about whether there's truly evil people, and you say one of the most evil persons that you met. What, didn't do a really evil thing, or
no? It was evil. It was. It just isn't. The thing with gang homicides, they don't make for good storytelling in terms of what the public's interested in.
Yeah,
and that's unfortunate. And in this particular case, it was a gang homicide, so it never made it to any of the TV shows because that's not something that they're interested in.
It's not the pretty young woman mother, It's I get it. Right?
Yes, but this it was a race war in Pacoima at the time between a Hispanic gang and black kids, and the word was out to randomly shoot black people. And this suspect did that. He walked up behind a young man who was trying to get into a 7-Eleven and shot him in the back of the head. There's not much more to that story other than a lot of detective work to prove the case. But when I was interrogating him, I can't articulate it with psychology. I can't articulate it with sociology. I can just tell you I felt like he was evil. I was in the presence of evil. And I have interviewed child molesters and all kinds of people.
Right.
But that one left me very unsettled.
A little chill down your spine, basically.
Yeah, very unsettled.
Yeah, I don't know the psychology of gangs. I think in many of them they're extremely weak, and the gang is all they have, and whether it's upbringing or whatever it is, but the evilness comes just from this sense of I don't care about anything, and I don't care about tomorrow, and my actions have absolutely no consequences. And so yeah, I get what you mean by that. Beyond being on TV, beyond being a homicide detective, beyond being the chief investigator for the Tulare County District Attorney's Office, you are an artist, an author, a mother, a wife. By the way, you met your husband in the LA riots?
Yes, the 1992 riots.
Really?
Yes. We were both assigned to the Emergency Operations Center, which is a few floors below City Hall in Los Angeles.
Yeah. Well, I guess, you can find love anywhere, right?
Yes, this is about the time of year we start celebrating.
You have this this book, Hold Fast and Bell Lap, right? Which, by the way, I had to look up Bell Lap. I didn't realize it's a race thing, right?
Yeah, it's a bike racing term.
The final lap is designated by a bell.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you have these books, and I understand that may have been what launched your TV career?
Yes.
In one of the books, and the book is based on a character named Shay, Marcella, tell your daughter, by the way, who is a detective, and you wanted to put a twist on it because, as you quote, the men in crime novels were often alcoholics, divorced, or dating a hooker with a heart of gold. I love that.
It's very true.
And you also basically state Shay is an era of when female police officers were an unwelcome novelty in LAPD. She earned her position as one of the department's few female homicide detectives by solving case one after another. Basically, it goes on. Is Shay an alter ego of you?
Well, it's fiction.
Right.
And she has a lot of traits that I would attribute that would be similar to my own. But what I was really looking for in this series was to examine the relationship with partners. And so it's not just that she's a female homicide detective, it's that her partner is male. And they view homicide differently, they view police work differently. So the first book's from her point of view, the second book's from his point of view. And he's married with a wife and little children. It's I always found it interesting is how does the detective end up an alcoholic with the hooker? How does he end up that way? We always get dropped into the story after he is in that position, but what contributes to that? And so I thought that was gold to mine that.
Yeah.
She just is careless and risky, and he's more plotting and methodical.
When you talk about the differences and their views of their cases and their perspectives and the differences between a male detective and a female detective, one of the questions I had was, and I don't know if the moniker of the killer closer and the fact that you were able to elicit confessions, but what was the advantage, whether it's psychologically, whether it's physically, whatever, what is the advantage that you think that you may have had? Is there a difference between male and female? Is there something that you think you had that you were able to elicit confessions more readily?
Well, that's an interesting question. I'm interested in people, and in order to get a good interview or a good interrogation, you have to be interested.
Yeah.
And you have to be thoughtful, and you have to be able to have open-ended questions, and you have to be able to put your ego aside. And that one, sometimes men struggle with being able to set their ego aside. They want to prove they know how the guy did it or the gal did it. They want to prove. They want to dominate in the interview.
It's funny that you say that, because there's a struggle, and I even though I hate watching crime shows, Netflix has now gotten me watching all these crime shows because I must have liked one of them, and a lot of them have to do with the officers and confessions, and a lot of stuff on YouTube too. And you do see that. You see a man who's just sitting there saying, "I know you did it." And one of the things that I saw in one of the confessions that you're doing, where you specifically just said, "I'm just going to ask him straight out, hey, did you do this or not?" But you sort of led up to it by, your analysis of it is you have to give a bit of honesty and truthfulness, and then you also have to have a bit of trickery in it. And it's that balance
all
that you
things
may
women
have.
are very good at.
Well, I never even thought about that. Hey, being a 60-year-old guy and unmarried, I guess I never thought about that, because I've been either tricked or...
You have been a victim of trickery, I am sure.
Lord.
That's another podcast.
Oh, my God,
How
the
was
confessions
Mark
that you would
tricked?
elicit from... Oh, boy. Listen, I am so glad that you were I thought you were reluctant to come on camera, but it looks like you've been on camera plenty of times. I'm so glad that Tim Ward... suggested that you come out here and be on my show, because I had a wonderful time. We're going to make 2 segments out of it. I would love to have you back to talk about some more of your cases, because you're just a fascinating woman to me. Fascinating detective to me.
Thank you.
See how I corrected myself?
I noticed.
Lindy Gligorijevic. Look at that. How about that?
Next time we'll talk about OJ.
And we're going to talk about OJ. You and I have that in common too, so I appreciate
we do
that.
have some conversations.
And we're going to go get some great Serbian food over at the Arc Mediterranean restaurant. So, Lindy, I love it. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week on the Marc Kapetan Show. I'd like to thank my wonderful, lovely producer, Marcella Solorio Taylor. Stay tuned for the restaurant tours right after this. This is KMJ.